Hey, Fitness of Business listeners. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to tell you about my Substack. It's my free weekly newsletter where I share more real stories, super helpful guides, and templates you can download and implement like today. Head over to leslieboyce.substack.com and subscribe. That's LESLIEBOYCE.substack.com. All right, let's get to the episode. One of the first dates my now husband and I went on was to a rock climbing gym. And at the time, I was deep in my CrossFit era, cranking out pull ups and lifting heavier than ever. So I figured rock climbing would be a piece of cake. We got our gear and he offered to belay for me. That's the term, right? So I started climbing and I flew up the first few holds like a pro. And then it got really hard, really fast. Suddenly, all my confidence vanished and I was very aware of how much I needed his support to make it to the top of that wall, which, for the record, felt like it was at least 1,000 feet high. In business, your network is kind of like that belay partner. You might start out thinking you've got it all handled on your own, but the higher you climb, the more you realize how essential it is to have people you trust holding that rope. My guest today is Judy Murdoch, founder of Marketing Root Work. Judy has been involved in marketing since, as she puts it, dinosaurs roamed the earth. She has worked with large advertising agencies, consumer products, and technology companies. But more recently, Judy is helping small business owners connect with their ideal clients in ways that feel good and are aligned with their values, with a focus on word of mouth and referral marketing. Judy helps her clients not only with the nuts and bolts of marketing, but with what she calls their shadow gremlins, those scary stories and beliefs we hold that get between them and the businesses they aspire to create. But before we get to chatting, every episode starts with a listener question in a segment called, Hey Coach. So, what would you ask if you had a business coach in your back pocket? Submit your question to Leslie@thefitnessofbusiness.com.
Hey, Coach. I get great feedback from my private yoga clients, but I can't seem to get them to leave reviews or refer their friends, and I know how important that is. What's the secret to turning happy clients into my best promoters?
Well, Judy, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. And I'd love to start with, how would you respond to our listener Annie's question?
Okay, so when I listened to it, I felt so much empathy for where she's at because so many business owners are in a similar space that she is. So what we think as small business owners, as solopreneurs, is that if we do a really great job, if we have clients who think the world of us, that they will naturally, spread the word all over, right? Like with a megaphone, hey, I've got this amazing yoga instructor. And the way I'm going to put this is human beings by nature really, really love telling other human beings about wonderful, fantastic things in their life. That is our nature. We like to do that. However, there are a lot of things that can come between somebody giving you a referral and somebody or them not giving you a referral. So in Annie's case, I'm going to just guess because I don't know for sure, but it is possible that because she's so good at what she does, because her clients love her so much, there's a really good chance they may just be assuming that all of her classes are full and she doesn't need clients. She doesn't need more people.
Yeah.
And if they send people her way, she might even say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm booked out for the next 3 months. So what happens when somebody like one of our devoted fans makes that assumption is, although it would feel really, really good to refer Annie to some of their other friends, at the same time, they don't want to refer a friend if that friend contacts Annie and finds out, oh, she's booked for 3 months. Then the friend will come back and say, man, she's booked for 3 months. I mean,
Yeah.
I know she's really great, but like, I can't get into a class.
Yeah.
Then you don't feel so great. Then you feel real
Yeah.
bad, like, oh, well, that's a bummer. So there, so it's like on the one hand, there is a really, really strong desire to be the bearer of good news and to
Mm.
share something really cool with other people. But people won't. If people are also very sensitive, they don't want to be the bearer of a bummer. And people are very sensitive about that. So, a big job for us as business owners is we need to do everything we can to make it super easy, memorable, simple, and, to give people that sense of certainty that, yeah, like, if I send my friend to this person, they're gonna be welcome, they're gonna have a great experience. They will come back to me and say, "Thank you so much
Mhm.
for referring me to that yoga instructor. She's amazing."
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. I want to basically what I'm hearing is there are a lot of assumptions being made almost on a very I would imagine subconscious level. Like the person is not going through all of those steps in their head and saying, "Well, now I'm
Right.
absolutely not going to refer Annie to my friends." It's just like you're saying, it's just sort of human nature to come to that conclusion whether they're aware of how they got there or not.
That's right.
So, even though I feel like this is kind of jumping way forward in some of the things I wanted to ask you about, but since you sort of led me to it, like in Annie's case, um, you said we need to make it super easy for them. So, what is one thing that Annie or someone in Annie's position could do or should do to make it easier for her clients?
Like, the easiest thing she can do is probably at the end of a class when everybody's feeling pretty good and, they've had, like, a really good workout, just say to people, "Hey, I have room in some of my classes." You might even wanna be specific about, "I have room on my Thursday 4:30 classes." If you are chatting with somebody who's interested in doing a yoga class, whatever the type of yoga is, maybe it's gentle for beginners or maybe it's whatever it happens to be, let your friends know because I would
Mhm.
love to welcome them into
Yeah.
my classes.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really super simple thing you can do.
Mhm. And what are your thoughts on I'm just gonna kinda jump all over the place because
Go
these
for
are the
it.
questions that I would have, and I do have. What are your thoughts on in this case or in any case, like referral bonuses or referral
Hmm,
programs?
that's such a great question. So here's how I'm going to answer that. So first of all, I'm in fact, I'm gonna frame everything I say from the perspective of marketing. Referrals are a part of marketing.
Mhm.
Is very much about understanding human beings. What feels good for people, what does not feel good for people.
Mhm.
In general, we can set up conditions so that it feels good for people to say yes or good for people to promote us. So I just want to be really, really clear about that.
'Kay.
I read a lot of behavioral science, believe it
Mhm.
or not. When somebody asks me, what do you recommend for marketing? A lot of times I'm like, you should actually read a behavioral science journal because it's evidence based.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
I don't wanna interrupt you and go, like, off on a tangent, but I remember I would have conversations with my mom like, throughout my entire life about how fascinated we were with things like how stores are laid out, the scents that the candles that they're burning, and, like, the psychology behind, how to get people interested to walk in and buy and refer so
Yeah.
I totally can, I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It's really, really interesting. And it's
Mhm.
also kind of interesting how, even though we're human beings, oftentimes, like, we overthink it, we make assumptions. We don't really like, we might overthink it or we think about, well, what would I want? But it's not about you, it's about your customer.
Yes.
So, anyway, going back to this question that you asked me about giving people bonuses. So,
Mhm.
number one, giving a referral that works out really well is an enormously rewarding thing for human beings because we are such social creatures. And one of the things that makes us feel so good is when we look good to our peers.
Mhm.
And if you or I turned one another on to like a movie nobody has seen, but it's like, oh, it's a gem. You should totally check this out. It's like, it's a little bit like being a rock star in your tribe. It really is because it feels so good.
Yeah, it's like I
So
just gave you a secret and that felt really good to
yeah,
share.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Like this is information nobody else knows about this, but I'm going to tell you about it. So it's like getting a little gem from somebody. So there's that piece. So again, going back to this human nature piece, giving a referral that works out is very much a reward in itself.
Mm.
Number two, and this is also really important, one of the things that makes referrals so incredibly powerful as a marketing tool is that people are doing this to look good. They're not doing it to get paid. They're not salespeople. They are simply doing this because they feel good
Mhm.
and they are trusting that you are going to have a good experience. And you may even come back and say, man, that was amazing. And they're going to feel great. Okay. So that is, and it's very powerful for human
Intimate.
beings. If we pay people to give us referrals, they kind of turn into
Mhm.
salespeople, which means this extraordinary level of trustworthiness that a referral brings has just been taken away.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but here's what I want to say in addition to that. Something I'm often asked about are people ask a lot about, well, what about an affiliate program? Because those are quite common. And so the way I put it to people is an affiliate program, usually you're getting paid a very small amount of money, right? It's a small percentage, maybe a couple percent. So in that particular case, it's more of a sweetener. Um,
Right.
if I really had concerns about referring somebody to an affiliate program I participate in, I wouldn't refer them. I wouldn't do the referral. And that's cool. I'm only out like, $5 or something like that. So it isn't as long as the reward is not interfering with that fundamental um motivation that people
Mhm.
have,
Mhm.
it's fine. I think I'm a huge fan of, like if somebody sends you a really significant piece of business, yeah, send them tickets, for, like a football game.
Yeah.
Send them a bottle of really nice whiskey, whatever it happens to be that they really love. But again, these things are not taking away from that fundamental motivation of so like somebody isn't going to be like, well, I'm going to send you a referral because I'll get like a bottle of Maker's Mark or something like,
Right. Well, and then you'll
you know,
never know, like, what was the actual motivation and where does the authenticity sort of stop and
yes,
the incentive kick in?
precisely.
Yeah.
And I'll say too that like in these days where like our entire world is very much it's virtual. We are nonstop, right? Like hit by so much advertising, so many appeals in every single direction.
Yeah.
And so people are a little cynical.
Mhm.
And that is something that, sometimes clients, people I talk to kind of complain about is that it's hard to get people to say yes. It's hard to convert. And a lot of that is because like people are just honestly kind of sick of being pitched to
Yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah. Right. What's the term people are saying?
Pitch
Pitch black?
slapped.
Yes. I mean, it's like you don't even need to explain it. It explains itself. And you're right. And it's everywhere, which kind of brings me to one of the big questions I have for you is like in this world of there's just this massive abundance of social media and more conventional marketing. What made you want to go specifically into this style of referral and word of mouth marketing?
It's very much for the reason that I shared with you
Mhm.
is that we're on our smartphones 24/7. We're constantly getting pitched to. Um, I also want to let's talk also a little bit about the nature of social media and the nature of we can just call it virtual messages that we get. So my background is in the consumer product world. So advertising, um, laundry detergent, shampoo, styling aids, whatever that happens to be, right? These are things we go to the store, we buy them. Generally speaking, we're not paying more than $5 for a particular item. In the consumer product world, they're selling what are fundamentally commodities. And the whole idea behind branding, like I was very involved in branding. Branding is about giving people the perception that a bottle of shampoo that is almost identical to somebody else's bottle of shampoo
Mhm.
is special
Mm.
and unique and it is for you. So I mean, literally created things like brand personalities.
Yeah.
Who is this brand for? Well, it's for the self-assured businesswoman, or it's for the busy mom who is, running after her kids all day. I mean, literally, those were like brand identities,
Yeah.
but they're for commodities.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's some issues in there around, first of all this branding and stuff. When you're on social media and you're selling something that is super low risk, right? Like if somebody buys a bottle of shampoo and they decide, man, I hate that smell, I'm throwing it out.
Mhm.
You're out $4.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't need much trust, right? Like you don't need to feel like, wow, I feel really good about Head and Shoulders.
Yeah, right. Or I
Like,
feel
yeah,
really
they're a good
seen
brand.
by this brand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. You're like, oh yeah, no, I feel really good about that. Um, Now when it comes to yoga instructors and business coaches and consultants and people who offer alternative healing services, all of these types of things, this is a very, very different thing than about you are not a bottle of shampoo. I'm not a bottle of shampoo. Each of us is unique and special. We bring our personalities, our values. As you and I have talked about, like we are the business. We
Mhm.
are the product, if you will.
Yeah.
So first of all, we don't really need to be a brand. You don't really need, kind of that old fashioned, like, I don't know, I'm the orange brand, I'm the blue brand, whatever. Um, so there's that piece. So it's a more like I guess what I'm gonna say, first of all, it is a more complex sale.
Mhm.
Second thing I'm gonna say is that building trust and familiarity, it is everything. It is everything. With a consumer product brand, if I see an advertisement on Facebook for a consumer product, I might click on it. And I might buy the product. Again, I'm only out $5. It's not a big deal. If I see an ad for a coach, let's just say it's an ad on Facebook, I am a lot more skeptical. I am not a lot of the time, I will not click because I don't want to be pitch slapped. I want the coach to be like, "Hey, you're on my mailing list and, you're going to get inundated with emails from me to promote my really super cool new product."
Yeah.
But the bottom line is it's about trust.
Mhm.
And trust is not an easy thing to build in the virtual world. Why is that? Well, for one thing, we are human beings. We are in-person creatures.
Mm.
I mean, it feels like the internet's been here forever. It has not been. The internet hasn't even been here for 50 years. So we are in-person creatures. We place enormous importance on nonverbal communication, the expression on your face, the sound of your voice.
Mhm.
There are so many things that human beings are so sensitive to.
Yeah.
All of those things give us a sense of knowing the person, feeling safe.
Yep.
Safety is huge. I don't I think we tend to, like we think ourselves, well, of course, I'm a nice person. I'm safe. I'm a good coach. I'll do a good job. It's just that the other person doesn't know. They
Right.
don't know you yet.
Right.
So that's the issue. That's
Mhm.
the issue with social media. Now, can you advertise on social media as a coach, as somebody who does a really personal service?
Mhm.
Can you do that and attract clients? I would never say no.
Mhm.
I'm sure there are success stories of coaches who have attracted, clients that way. It's just that it takes time. And the other thing to understand about it is that, um, yeah, it just takes time. It's not an ideal medium
Mhm.
for creating the level of trust needed.
Yeah.
So somebody is going to say yes. So somebody says like, yeah, I'd like to work with you.
Yeah. Well, then how would you sort of recommend, someone one like me or an Annie or even you blend the two? It's like I've always felt like I am on social media because it's important that I have a presence because my ideal clients, they may not find me on there, but they're sure going to look me up on there and see what I'm all about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So like I think what are some of the important elements to incorporate in social media that may just sort of enhance the
Yeah. No,
interactions?
that's a great question. So a good really good way to think about marketing and sales is like if we think about it from like sort of a human process perspective. The very first thing our marketing needs to do is marketing needs to make us visible, right? So our ideal client needs to know we exist in the universe, period, end of sentence.
Mhm.
Social media is great for that.
Mm,
That is a good use of social media.
yeah.
So people, as you said, somebody can look you up. They can get an idea of who you are.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for sure. However, after like to me, social media, like if you're going to use it so you're visible and so that that leads the person into a next step, whether that's an email list, whatever it happens to be, like, or to become a podcast subscriber, for example, because you need to lead them into a potentially months long relationship building, trust building space.
Mhm.
I mean, so anyway, that's what social media is great for visibility.
Yeah.
The way I put it with people, I sometimes will use a garden metaphor, and the way I will put it is social media is like planting a seed. However, as we all know, you don't just plant a seed, walk away and say, all right.
No, I do, and that's why none of my plants survive.
Right.
Literally none of them. I don't know, I'm terrible at them. So,
I'm not a
yes,
very
I
good
can
gardener either. Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
see this very sad little plant that I can't even keep alive behind me, so
Yeah. Well,
so
I
your
don't know.
metaphor really, really strikes a chord with me.
Yeah. Well, we live in Colorado. Colorado is not the kindest environment
Oh,
to
thank you.
a
That's
lot of
good.
plants. I only grow like cactuses and succulents
There
because
you
they
go.
thrive in this environment.
Yes, so the drier the better.
But at any rate, like really like when you're marketing your business, like visibility is the start. You're planting a seed. Then you really need to have some kind of a system or process in place where you are, consistently in small ways, kind of like on an everyday basis, reaching out to people,
Mm,
asking people how they're doing, sending them a newsletter, whatever that happens to be. But, sometimes people will use the word it's a touch, right? You need
yeah,
to touch people.
yeah.
But people do need to be touched.
Mhm,
And the more expensive your service, the riskier it is if something were not to work out,
mhm.
the more trust building is required.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Where do you think is like the most common, um, I don't know, maybe not pitfall, but sort of like dropping off point? So, like in the process that you're talking about, maybe someone looks you up on social media and they say, "Oh, she's got a newsletter. I think I'm gonna subscribe to it."
Yeah.
Like, what are the steps that happen, and then what prevents them, in your experience, from actually handing over money to work with
Yeah.
you? Like, where does that, I don't know, drop off?
Yeah. The way I'm going to answer your question is there are so many reasons people don't.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes it's timing. They simply don't need what you are currently offering. It doesn't mean they won't need it in the future. It simply means they don't need it right now.
Yeah.
Um, for whatever reason, the tone with which you communicate does not resonate for people.
Mhm.
That's a huge issue. That's probably one of the biggest issues I see with small business owners is they try so hard to, I think. have like a certain tone in their email.
Mhm.
I don't know where they get this from, but there do seem to be some kind of like, this is how my email should be. This is how I should talk to people.
Mm.
And so they don't come across as authentic.
Yeah.
Um, so in a way, Leslie, I hate to put it this way, but I'm going to because this is my experience. Marketing is very much a try it out and see what happens. Try it out and see what happens. Over time, you will learn, if you're willing to do experimentation, you will learn what works with your audience and what
Mhm.
does not work with your audience.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you it's just like one
Yeah.
thing. So, like I talked about a couple of things like timing, the voice, the way people structure their offers. I see people sending these email newsletters out and their offers are like buried at the bottom. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
it's just like, well, nobody converts. It's like, well, dude, nobody sees it.
Yeah.
We don't, another piece is sort of like, we don't understand how people like read online.
Mm.
How do people take information in online?
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They take in as little as possible. They
Yes.
skim.
Headlines, yeah.
If you're sending out a long, it could be the most brilliantly written newsletter ever.
Yeah.
And people will spend like 2 minutes on it, like maybe looking at the first paragraph, and it's like bonk,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So unless you grab people's attention immediately, you're just not going to look at it.
Yeah. Well, and sort of going back to what you were saying about what are some of the reasons people convert or don't, it like this is something I'm working on with my daughter, who I love to talk about on this podcast because she actually does listen to it, and I don't know how she'll feel about me talking about her, but, um, it's like, what are things you can control and what are things you cannot control?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I certainly fall into this trap
Yeah.
of like, well, for my last program, I had like 6 people who all were like, "Oh, it sounds amazing. I'm signing up. I'm
Yeah.
signing up. I'm signing up." And then they didn't. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, what did I do? What could I have
Yeah.
controlled?" And it's like, well, one of them, said, "Oh, I'm going through this really tough thing in my marriage." One of like, who
Yeah,
knows, right?
exactly.
Like, talk about
That's
making
correct.
assumptions. It's very
Exactly.
dangerous, and so I
Yeah.
appreciate that it's like, well, there isn't one straight answer. It's just try, 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 but if you don't have that perseverance, you know.
I think that's like one of those really sort of major, I don't know if I would call it a myth for us as small business owners, but I do think we're exposed to an awful lot of stories where like people just like hit it immediately and it's amazing and wonderful. And like, man, those people, most of those people have been working their butts off
Yes.
for 5 years,
Yes.
trying all these different things
Yeah.
before they finally figured out thing that was really going to work well with their audience.
Yeah. Right. But that's not nearly as, sexy to talk about or as
Nope,
captivating or impressive, but
it's
like
not
you
sexy at
said,
all.
but it's all also very relatable, and I find that those are the people when I get their emails and they're like, "Oh, look at me. I went from
Yeah,
0
I know.
to 1,000." Like, no. No, you didn't, and also if you did, good for you, but get next.
Also, like if you go back to again, like this idea of what makes people feel good, those kinds of emails generally don't make most people feel good. It's kind of one of the reasons, like, sometimes I will talk about bro marketing, which is like, kind of like, "Oh my god, you can't believe it. Oh, man." I get some of those and I always unsubscribe because they just like it and it's always sort of like, doing really, really well, and if you just sign up for my, $10,000 program, you too, you'll be killing it, you'll be crushing it, and, it's like, no,
No,
uh-uh.
I know. I know, and right. Okay, I will not go down that
Yeah, no,
rabbit
it's
hole because
okay,
I
it's
could,
okay.
but I think
Yeah,
we are very much aligned on that. Uh,
yeah, for sure.
I would love to know if you can share a story about someone that you've worked with where you have seen referral or word of mouth marketing, transform something about their business.
I wanna be a little careful here. I'm gonna give a couple examples. One is not mine, okay? So one is not my business. Um, this is a story that was told I attended like a day-long workshop, and we talked about referral marketing. The guy who gave it, um, had a very interesting background in that I don't wanna get too much into this because this is kind of a different kind of situation, I guess, but he was actually a forensic accountant, and he discovered that if you can kinda hit on certain aspects of your message and the way you relate to your consumer, you can really, really kind of blow up your referrals and do really, really well with them. So what he did in this particular story, this was a client he worked with. He was working with a primary care doctor. Apparently, the doctor had a very strong accent, so he didn't kind of like even in person, he didn't necessarily relate very well
Mm.
with patients. And so what this consultant did was he had him print up like 300 pens that, you can buy these on like promotional
Mhm.
type things.
Yeah.
And the pen said something along the lines of, "Your health is important. Please give this pen to somebody you know, and they can call this number and make an appointment with this physician."
Hmm.
And apparently, it just like it blew up his practice
Huh.
because there was something very viral
Yeah.
about handing a pen to somebody. You're giving them a pen, they're going to call. And the other thing was, I believe they got a significant like percent off
Ah.
for their primary visit.
Hmm.
It worked really, really well. So it had there sometimes, you can create things where there's like a viral quality
Yeah.
to them.
Hmm.
In terms of my own clients, I mean, I think a big piece of usually what has happened, I had a client a while ago, and their business was to create websites for, generally speaking, fast food restaurants. And I think in this particular case, it was as simple as them simply, again, like asking people to send them referrals.
Mhm.
And their business, I don't know if it didn't blow up,
Yeah.
but they definitely saw an increase because there were a lot of things about the business that were inherently very likable,
Mhm.
including the owners. They were a
Mm.
couple, just two really cool people.
Yeah.
So again, this was very simply asking, just
Mhm.
asking for referrals. That's all they have to do.
Well, and I don't think that, blowing up, although I guess that can be interpreted in any way, but like that's not necessarily the goal. I think especially for a lot of, small businesses and solopreneurs, it's like
Yeah.
I were to all of a sudden blow up, like could I actually meet that demand? Probably not. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes having that reminder that I'm doing this not with the goal of getting 100 new yoga clients, but 5 in the next week would be great, and so,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, you and I have talked about, we met a couple weeks ago, and you had asked me if I would be comfortable letting you interview, like, the 5 people who are closest to
Yeah.
me, who have worked with me, and who know me best to
Yeah.
understand more about, like, how to put myself out there, in an
Uh,
accurate way. So I would love I did something similar in, one of my graduate school classes, actually one of my first graduate school classes in a leadership course, which was like a 360, and I interviewed a bunch of people, and it was enlightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of it was like, "Oh, yep, that," and it was anonymous, but I was like, "I definitely know who said that and who said that." But, um, I would love to just hear a little bit more about what you think, like, if you were to do that for me or anybody,
Yeah.
what sort of walk me down that path of what that would do.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you an example actually. So a few years ago, I worked with an insurance agency, and this particular insurance agency, they're local. They're here in the Colorado area. Um, and they specialize in mobile like mobile homes, what they call manufactured housing. And the owner hired me, and the way he phrased his question to me, he said, "Judy, our clients are extremely they're loyal. They give us referrals. Um, but," he said, "I don't know what it is. Like, what's the secret sauce? How do we talk about this in our marketing? What is it about what is it about what we are, what we do that makes our clients and customers love us so much?" So in that particular case, I interviewed, I think, about 20 of their loyal customers. And I asked, you know, I don't know if I want to talk about the exact questions, that might be a little bit dry, but the one thing that kept coming up that people kept saying to me over and over again was, um, the owner of the company and his staff were really dedicated to making things work for that manufactured housing owner. It was often somebody who had an RV or somebody who lived in a trailer or it could even be a trailer park. And they said, from where we stand, it can be really, really difficult to get funding, to get financing, to get insurance with other financial companies. They tend to look down on us and they tend to look at us as like, oh, you guys, you've got the house that's going to blow away in the next big storm.
Mm.
And they were disrespectful. They
Yeah.
felt very disrespected
Yeah.
and yeah, they really didn't like it. And so the fact that this owner and his staff would, like, really go to great lengths to try to get a policy for them, to make it work for them. That meant everything to them. Another thing somebody said to me, which was, I think, incredibly important, was the guy's name was Mark. They said, "Mark is one of us.
Mm.
Mark is one of us." And that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge because basically what they're saying is like he's my guy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm his guy.
Mhm.
And that is so incredibly important.
Mhm.
So I took those 2 pieces away and I said, basically, like, "You guys care. You're genuine. Your clients trust you. They
Mhm.
absolutely trust you." It was an incredibly powerful, um, thing that I learned. And, the thing that was sort of ironic was after telling them this, the owner, for whatever reason, decided that somehow, I don't know, maybe it was a little, like, too lofty or too woo or something like that, but they ended up not using it in their marketing, and I was really bummed because I just thought like, "Man, you guys got gold here."
Yeah. Well, huh. How would you advise that they should use it if
One of the things that we had talked about, like, we were talking about things like slogans and taglines, and I think we had talked about something like, like, "We care about your American dream."
Mm.
So something like that
Yeah.
to, like, just make it really clear that, like, we care about you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, that can be a little bit, challenging because caring is something that it sounds really good, but it's very nuanced. And how do you put it together in that way? I thought that tagline, you know, we care about your American dream, or nobody cares more about your American dream
Yeah.
other than you than us, or something
Yeah.
along those lines. I actually saw it show up in
Hmm.
some insurance company advertising not that long ago.
Oh, interesting. So I guess, like, if people listening are ready to start, asking a little bit more, I guess, bluntly for referrals, but they're really uncomfortable with the idea of self-promotion, even though,
I
yes, we
know.
we are, like, we are.
I
And I don't
know.
know why it's so easy to promote other people and sing their
I know,
praises and hear
right?
all the things they can do, but, like, So that's probably an entire episode just on the psychology of why is it so hard for me to sell my
I
own
know.
services. Okay, but where are a couple places people can start?
Probably where I would start is this. I would look probably just like begin by just looking at my clients. Just look at my clients and look at the people who really love and adore me.
Hmm.
And it could be as simple as just saying, I have a couple extra spots in my practice.
Mhm.
If you meet somebody that you think would be a really great client for me, please let them know about me. Um, if possible, it's good for people to have a business card that they can hand somebody. I have even been thinking about creating something that I call kind of like a referral, like cheat book or something, which would be like still like a little business card, but it has some information there so that people kind of know what to say about you.
That actually totally jogs my memory of an event that I wanted to do. I have it on my, like, buried on my,
Yeah.
to-do list that I'm calling, like, the "Remember Me, Think of Me
Yeah.
When," and so I love that
Yeah.
idea, so thank you for
Yeah. That would
giving me
be,
another thing to do.
yeah, no, I think that would be a really good start point. Another example is I did a class, um, not that long ago. And one of the things that I did was I had a few people who I think of as being sort of my go-to collaborative people, kind of like my spotters, if you will.
Mhm.
And I did send them, and first I checked in with them. Is it okay if I send you an email? I would really love your help. And then I did send them an email, and it actually had the language they could use
Yeah.
to send to their list. I mean, there is so much possibility because all of us, right? We all have our networks,
Mhm.
but our networks are kinda clumpy.
Mhm.
That's kind of how human networks are. And there's always, like, enormous possibility in just hooking somebody up to your list.
Yeah.
Again, saying this from a space of being very respectful, really, really, like, understanding that there are boundaries, all of those things. Again, it's all about safety, it's all about trust.
Yeah.
But assuming that you clear all those things up with a collaborator, I mean, man, there's so much potential.
Yeah. Well, and I think, to go back to your point about give them the words, make it super duper easy.
Yes.
um, because we are all bombarded with just so much information all the time that, again, likely they're not telling people about you because they don't believe in what you do. It's that they forgot or they went to craft an email and it was like, I don't know I don't know what I want to say in this. I'll come back to it, and they don't.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what can you do to
Yeah.
make things really, really easy for people? I think that's great.
Yeah. Like, Leslie, like, both of us are business coaches, and, um, it's like it's really tricky, like, how like, the other day I asked you, like, who's, like, an ideal client for you,
Mhm.
and you told me about a client you'd worked with who was very, very open
Yeah.
to your ideas. It was somebody who was, like, they were in that space of, like, "I wanna go to the next level,
Yeah.
but I'm stuck. I don't know what I should do."
Mhm.
But for me, that was like a really good description of somebody like, oh, if I talk to somebody and they're telling me about kind of like how they're in a place in their business where, there's something more they want to do, but they're very stuck. Like, I'd be like, you should talk to
Mm.
Leslie. She's great helping people with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's great. And, we did, for people listening, go back to episode 2 about social media. There's a downloadable worksheet to get very clear on who are your target clients, like 2 to 3 of them, and, getting
Yeah.
getting to know them really, really well so that as you're crafting your messaging or what you want other people to say on your behalf, you have those people in mind. So I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. I want to go back to those interviews for a moment because what I really like to do in the interviews, and it's different. This was an insurance agency. You are a business coach. You have a very different business. But the thing that I generally look for when I talk to people who are like your best clients are I'm really looking for like, what is it about you that people really love? And what is it about you distinctively
Mhm.
that people really love? So I'm looking for two pieces. One thing is, what is it about you that, like makes you special to your clients? But I'm also really interested in what is distinctive about you as compared to other business coaches, because that's important as well.
Yeah. Well, and they might kind of sound similar to someone who's not really
Yeah.
understanding the nuance of the difference between those 2 things, but, um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
really
that's one of the
insightful.
reasons I have so much I place a lot of value on what clients say
Yeah,
because, they will use their language, they will use their words. Their words are more important than my words.
yeah, yeah, and just going back to the interview thing, it's that objectivity piece, like, I could think what I do is awesome, and I could
Right.
also, like, find people who validate that that thing is awesome, and maybe that's confirmation bias. I don't know, but it's impossible to be objective, and so, you
It
know
is.
yeah.
It's really, really hard.
So, you have a newsletter.
I
What
do.
what sorts of things can people learn through your newsletter?
I have a weekly newsletter. It's called the Marketing Rootwork Newsletter. I generally go between 2 kind of areas that I share with people. I really make an effort to, as often as possible, give people something actionable
Mhm.
and, something that's evidence-based. So it's often kind of along the lines of do this, not that.
Yeah.
Like, here's what works.
Yep.
Sometimes in my newsletter, I will share things that I myself am struggling with
Mhm.
because I find that like nothing triggers people like trying to do their own marketing. It's so hard. It is, our egos get so wrapped up in it. So oftentimes I will just say, I'm having trouble with this.
Yep.
Just FYI, I'm a marketing expert, but I don't have it all together.
Yep.
And, like if you're struggling with this, hey, you're in good company.
Yep.
So I really make an effort to just try to help people feel sort of like, right, because as business owners, we're so isolated in some
Mhm.
ways and we just get way too into our heads.
Yes.
So sometimes I really just want people to feel like, no, you're fine. You're human. You're doing it right. It's really cool. You're
Yeah.
okay. You know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes one of the things I love to do is I like to interview people. So you and we did an interview yesterday. It was great. I love bringing people, to the podcast who have something, interesting to share that my readers and listeners can, I don't know, I guess, kind of like be inspired by,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like inspiring people and energizing them.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, we connected over a year ago, and I just feel like every conversation we have, we learn more about each other, but
Yeah.
that is, we've talked about that we are natural connectors. And so that is just,
Yes.
that
Yes.
comes very intrinsically and naturally. But, um, then it's like, okay, but what can I do with that? Because not everybody is a natural connector. So how
Yeah.
can I, use that to my advantage?
It's a superpower.
Hmm.
It is. It's remember what I said about, just connecting people, like, their different lists and networks,
Yep.
like, we're bridge builders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Judy, thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, I always enjoy our conversation, so I'm glad that now other people get to as well. And if you're listening and you want to check out Judy's newsletter, it's judymurdoch.substack.com, and I will link that in the show's notes.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Always love talking to you, and this was such a great conversation.
Yeah, well, we're not done yet because I do have a final
Huh?
question. I know.
Okay.
I
All
like to
right.
bring it on people. So we
Okay.
start every episode with our "Hey coach" question.
Okay.
And we end each episode by asking, on the podcast we talk about how running a business is basically a workout. So what is one business strength or habit that you wish you had developed earlier in your career?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. It was, I think, like you and I talked a little bit about how being mommies actually
Mm.
make us better business owners.
Yeah.
Um, So the reason I call my company root work marketing, or marketing root work rather, rather than, super cool marketing or something like that, is because one of the things that I have learned, just through hard experience, is that ultimately you can have the best tagline, you can have really great copy, you can have a really cool logo, you can have like kind of all the stuff. But you ultimately need to be the person, you are the number one person who has to absolutely believe in what you do. You've got to really have that, like it's a body thing. You really
Mm.
have to be able to kind of hold that in your body because man, like I think the hardest thing is like we look to other people, right, for validation. Kind of like, am I doing it right? Does anybody want the service? I don't know. And I think ultimately, like, we have to, at the very least, kind of feel like we have a conviction that, like, I don't know if this business will be successful, this particular form of business, but I do know that what I care about is very important to me.
Mm.
And one way or the other, this is something I want to bring into the world.
Yeah. So just sort of knowing that and owning it.
And
Um,
knowing too that there are a lot of parts of us that are going to say, "Are you crazy?"
but
Right?
most
Like
parts,
those
yeah.
little gremlins that I talked about
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's like every time I probably, have any success, I have a couple gremlins that say, "Oh, I don't know. You should be careful. This is a dangerous time." What I mean? And
For them, actually, yes.
yeah, so like just have so much compassion
Mm,
and patience with yourself.
mhm.
Because being a business owner, in some ways, it's great and it's fun and it's cool. And it's like, I think one of the hardest things you can do as a human being.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Period.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
Okay, I
That's
like
something I
it.
wish I'd had.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and remember to submit your Hey Coach questions at Leslie@thefitnessofbusiness.com. See you next time.
Thanks,
Thank
Leslie.
you.